All right, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Catherine Mills. I am with Orgo Creative, and you have joined the Unforgettable Agent workshop that we are hosting with Central Mississippi Realtors. Today, we are going to be going over social media and better ways, tips, tricks, strategies to leverage it for realtors across the state of Mississippi. So this is being recorded. So if you know anybody who signed up but wasn't able to join, the ladies over at CMR will be emailing this out in a newsletter next week. I know we've got limited time today, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it and hopefully have enough time at the end for questions. But I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks so much for joining. And yeah, if you have any questions afterwards, always feel free to ping me. So I look forward to doing this for you guys today. So again, this is the Unforgettable Agent. I do apologize. I'm just going to be presenting in PDF form today. So probably not all the animations you're used to with death by PowerPoint, but we will still keep it interesting. So everyone is aware, again, my name is Catherine Mills. I am with Orgo Creative. We are a branding and marketing agency that focuses on local and Main Street businesses. That most definitely includes realtors. David afforded me this opportunity to come and speak with y'all. I know it was a question that many had. Hold on, more people are joining. I apologize. Many had been asking for, and now seems like the best time for Mississippi realtors. There's so much happening across the state. There are so many reasons to be talking about this. And hopefully everyone will leave today knowing that real estate is just one part of your business, and there are so many different legs that you can be leveraging, jumping off from. So again, Orgo Creative, if you ever have any questions about marketing anything. So for today's discussion, we're going to go over the content funnel, what's happening in the Mississippi forecast, understanding the audience so that you can leverage various types of content, how to pick your platforms, what platforms are working best for realtors, what content is working best for realtors, kind of a weekly action plan. And then I've got a deliverable for all of y'all so that you can do your own audit at the end of this and kind of test yourself and see how you are doing compared to the average realtor. So in marketing, and my background is energy. So I fell into this because I actually started a podcast a number of years ago. Podcasting led to marketing agency, which led to working in many states and many different industries. And the number one comment I always receive when working with new clients and even some realtors is, well, I posted it on social media, but I don't get much action. Where that confusion is the types of content drive different types of metrics. And most people do not have the time or do not quite understand how to get down funnel to get that sold. So simply posting on social is absolutely great. But what it actually does is it plays into the vanity metrics of social media. It's just a post. You're lucky if you get a 3-second stop rate. Let me admit some more people. 3 seconds thumb stop rate while people are scrolling. You know, you've got to get in front of people, especially since COVID, they did a study. So when I was younger, it was, we have a 7-second attention span. Now it's, you have to actually get in front of people about 12 times before they start paying attention. So website, hot stop items, websites, social, infographics, OTT, those are all typically top of funnel. Where you see mid-funnel happening is building up the SEO, building a very healthy email list, staying engaged, nurture sequences with said email list. And then where the real estate industry really begins to shine in all of this is through local and industry-wide discussions, showcasing that subject matter expertise so that you become the individual that is the go-to for the pulse on the industry and the pulse on what's happening within your market. And incidentally, although Mississippi is known for the arts and for the music, we don't have a lot of outlets for the audio. There are not that many consistent podcasts out there, and it's a huge opportunity that's being missed, but huge opportunity for anyone on this call or anyone listening to take advantage of that. So always recommend sort of breaking down what's top of funnel, what's going to get me that reach, what are those vanity metrics, and then what can actually turn those reach into advocacy, which turns into leads, which turns into sales. So I really want to give y'all credit here because Mississippi is most definitely on the precipice of great things. We are gaining attention in the news. And I mean, just to let you know a little bit more about me, I actually live half time between Mississippi and Colorado. And I tell people constantly how wonderful Mississippi is. Colorado in and of itself, yes, it has the mountains, great destination, but it is transient. There is not really a sense of community. There is not much put into the educational program. There's not much of a sense for connecting with the neighbor, if you will. And little birdie has told me that that state alone will be announcing like a $2 billion deficit at the end of Q4, whereas Mississippi is making moves to make everything more appealing. We just got rid, or we shifted around income tax, number 2 in GDP growth. Something that's been happening on both sides of the aisle that is beyond exciting is Mississippi, from about Gluckstadt all the way down, really positioning itself to become a tech hub and a startup space within the United States. And yes, it is slow going, but it is gaining quite a bit of traction from startup to Innovate Mississippi. People, investors, everyday browsers are paying attention. We have affordable land. We're in the top 10 for investment opportunities. And actually, a few more stats came out last week. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but if you, as a realtor, and I do think that the real estate industry, I mean, Mississippi is on that precipice, but we have a full syzygy. That's a word for you. It's when the stars align, SYGY. If you do not recognize that opportunity and you are not making moves to leverage that opportunity, I have no idea what to tell you because it's blaring in neon lights and it is something exciting and it is a chance that this state has never seen before. So one of the best ways to keep up with that, and I'll give kudos to CMR here, they do a great job, especially in their newsletters, of keeping you update with what's happening, just pulse on local industry, but also any sort of rules and regs that are changing within y'all's industry. So be sure you are checking that. You know, that is the best way to stay informed. And they have begun copying me on a few of them, and I'm very impressed from a marketing standpoint of what they have been delivering to members. So kudos across the board. But if you know someone who is not signed up for that newsletter, make sure that you let them know because it is gold for what is coming and what you guys can leverage as real estate agents. So I will say, there is a misconception with omni-channel, okay? If you are everything to everyone and spending all your time on social media, you lose the core of your business. You are forgettable to viewers. However, oversaturation in terms of posting content and putting information out there, it is your best friend and your worst enemy. If you stop, you will be immediately forgotten. If you post a couple of times a day, you're not going to piss anybody off. There's so much other like for every post you make, there are 10 people behind you. There are a million people behind you. But if you try to be everything on every single platform, you're going to burn out. You're going to be forgettable. And at some point, you're going to lose control of the production calendar, which is where you're going to be planning out what content you're putting out so that honestly you can maintain a normal life. Because, you know, there's some people that sit in their basements and do this all day long. That's fine. They're making millions, but that's probably not what most people want to do. So just keep that in mind. There is a lot to be said for a well-organized yearly or quarterly calendar with social media. And I work with all of my clients to build those out to make sure that you are leveraging platforms that are going to drive that ROI and that engagement, because that's where it matters. It's one thing to be seen, it's another thing to gain advocacy, which leads to leads. So, had a few more join there. I apologize. All right. So hopefully everyone can see my screen here. You in and of your business, whether you are a brokerage agency, an investor, standalone real estate agent, you are driving the voice, the value, and the vision of your book of business. And, there are certain things within y'all's market that can very well translate across the United States, but otherwise translate very well within your space. Northern Mississippi may have a different talk track than Southern Mississippi, and recognizing where you fall on that spectrum is key to building your voice, which is an extension of your brand. Your brand, your expertise, that is your business, and allowing that trickle down effect, building that advocacy so that you can steer that advocacy is where it comes from. So there is nothing I can do as a marketer, as an agency owner, and don't let anybody ever tell you differently, because they are lying to your face and just end the meeting. Your network is by far your most important resource. Your boots on the ground, your handshakes, but more importantly, your review, testimonial, whatever you want to call it, and then how you are nurturing that network. That means that within your business, you are building different audiences. Social presence is key. It is a free tool to us. We do not own that space. We're lucky enough to have profiles, but even Instagram has rolled out, or I guess Meta technically has rolled out their different tiers of the business profiles that you can do. They are now being indexed on Google. So whether or not you were using Instagram in the past is kind of irrelevant at this point, because you want to leverage Google indexing, Bing indexing, Nextdoor, Yelp, anything along those lines. Keeping it consistent is the problem, and that's where most people actually fail. Sure, you'll have a few times, you'll build out some brand, like you'll do some batch work, you'll build out some stuff, but then you kind of go silent, right? Or we fall into the traps where we have the perfect image, we have the perfect business card, the perfect yard sign, but we fail to have a consistent voice on social platforms, and we revert to old media like TV, print, newspaper, magazines, what have you, radio, and the reach is just not there. I know this state really appreciates their super talk, and while it is great, it's still syndicated radio. There is still limits to what you're actually pulling in. So figuring out how your social presence is out there, keeping it consistent, how is it nurturing your existing network, as well as building new leads? How are you sharing your expertise? I mean, I put up this billboard here because right now in the real estate space, because really of TikTok, you are seeing humor in real estate take off. Non-real estate agents, non-experts, non-investors are jumping in and leveraging platforms like Zillow, and quite frankly, that revenue stream that they are building through that platform, it's paying for their whole day. So all they're doing is sitting at their desk and reviewing listings. But there is a lot to be said for humor behind the business. And Lord knows, I know it's print, and I know you can't slap up a QR code because it will cause a wreck, whatever. A good billboard campaign goes a long way. So actually, just a side note, I don't know if any of y'all remember, but I used to have to travel to Virginia all the time. And early 2000s, there was an elderly gentleman who was very convinced that the rapture was coming. So from the Georgia side of South Carolina up until the North Carolina border, along that 95 corridor, he actually took out billboards to get people to repent. And to this day, I mean, he has since passed. One time, he put a specific date on there. Nothing happened. So he actually went back and erased the dates on all the billboards. But to this day, because it was kind of a shock value, people still speak about it. And that's just one example of, might not have been his end goal with that campaign, but kind of having that hook, that shock value, the humor, people will remember. So just knowing where your dollar and your ad spend is going to be most impactful. How many of you remember a magazine article, or excuse me, not a magazine, but a magazine listing? Or how many of you have magazine listings without QR codes, maybe some sort of, newspaper listing? Print doesn't get you as far as it used to. So you want to leverage these platforms, and this is really where you want to put your spend and your energy, but luckily it's not as expensive. So I always have a rule with my clients. If I Google you, perception is 9/10 of the law. So am I going to find consistent banners? Am I going to find posting, educational, any sort of fluff? Like, what am I going to find about you? Am I going to find rules? Am I going to reviews? Am I going to see industry engagement? If you do not currently have those up, and I know many realtors, they struggle between a professional profile on Facebook and then a personal one. I agree. Do not mix the two. I alone have about 5 personalities, as I call them, up on LinkedIn, and they are all geared towards different industries. So leverage that, because all that is a change of email, and you absolutely should be keeping professional and personal separate, because it's going to be a different tone, a different voice. But there does need to be consistency with every professional profile and knowing how those profiles are going to be working for you. So a lot of the time I get a question, well, fine, what does good look like? Because if you're telling me that a single post isn't going to get me anything, and I know that like posting on Instagram is like pulling your teeth out, what looks good? What would you consider a healthy mix, and how to manage it? So right now, it's all about indexing. And I mean about the aggregation sites, Google, Bing, Yahoo. There are tons of them out there, the primary being Google and YouTube, because they're our largest search engines. But we're also seeing things like ChatGPT or Grok take off with searches, with looking for information, with brainstorming ideas. And you want to be recognized on all of those platforms one way or the other. So when I build out a healthy footprint, one of the most underutilized tools out there is LinkedIn. And for everybody who thinks that they are doing a great job on Facebook, I very much encourage you to make sure you have a professional profile for your business, for your floating head on LinkedIn, and building up that, let me get these guys, building up that profile every single day. There is less red tape. Yes, the ads are slightly more expensive, but that does not mean that you need to kick off running social ads until you understand your organic traffic. It indexes, LinkedIn articles index on Google for you, similar to how, well, they've been doing it for a while, but Instagram is doing that now. Pinterest is doing that. I actually have a few clients who are wastewater engineering firms. If you do not know how wastewater works, you are very unlikely to simply go out and Google that. It is not the most exciting. It's not as sexy as real estate, but simply creating content that matches the platform. For Pinterest, these agencies are now being bolstered when searches happen for water and wastewater. And it's all because of how they back-end integrate into the Google APIs. So it's something to know, something to leverage. I would not encourage anyone on here, and I know this is kind of faux pas, but I would not encourage anyone to just run out for your website and go hire an SEO agency. A lot of them are smoke and mirrors. A lot of them are only focused on Google search and just messing around within that console. And that is great, but there is so much more to it than that, that if you see that, you're going to know that something's up for you. You, of course, search keywords and everything like that, but there's so much more just buying backlinks. I have a client who has purchased a number of backlinks, and yeah, it's easy to purchase backlinks, but when you actually click into that link and you see where the hosting website is, if that hosting website does not have credibility, don't be wasting money on that. It might take longer to build, but when you have reputable sources mentioning you, then all of a sudden you start seeing yourself tick up in Google. The reality is, though, it takes time. Google is a huge company. They are scraping at all hours of the day. Their spiders are crawling at all hours of the day. It's always going to take, 6 to 8 months to see if your work is actually making an impact. So when new clients come on and they have no footprint whatsoever, I always give them the warning, like, hey, we can build it, but just because you build it, I mean, we are not the Roman Empire. Just because you build it does not mean it will be found. It takes time. So understanding that you might not see a lot of that start taking off, such as website, popping up anywhere else, probably for about 12 to 14 months is when you start seeing the numbers work for you on your platforms. Drives us all back to why there should be booking strategies, why there should be social strategies, why there should be podcast campaigns. These are all legs that not only drive a revenue stream for your business, but they promote your core business, which is selling houses, finding investors, opening new doors. So, healthy example, LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, and of course, the giant beast that it is, Google. So, what does social look like for you guys as smart platforms to engage on? What does your portfolio, if you will, need to look like? So, the underutilized ones, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Google. Okay. And if you happen to have a web address that is linked to a larger company, like EXP or something like that, I would absolutely encourage you, because of the way that digital strategy works. And we will be doing next month a full digital strategy breakdown for realtors as our next course. So more to come on that. But as that works, what you're actually doing is you're kind of driving more traffic for the larger entities, the larger brokerages, if you will. I would always encourage you to consider a standalone website as well, where you promote. It expands your footprint, but essentially you're giving Google a reason to think that you are a landing page when you're leveraging just your website with the larger firms. You're not really doing yourself any favors. So you really want to think about how Google works so that you can get all the direct traffic, build your email list, and start going immediately into those nurture sequences. The necessary evils for the industry are most definitely Facebook. It's the biggest and baddest out there. I remember signing up for it when I was in, well, I was one of the first. I was in boarding school, but you had to have the school sign up. Instagram, it's always going to be there, but it is very hard to grow an audience, especially with the new lockdowns they just put on it. YouTube, second largest true search engine out there. Nobody likes making videos. It doesn't matter who you are, unless that is your only job, it can be difficult. So having a team that can schedule that out for you and make it a little less painful, I absolutely encourage it. And then, of course, nurturing your boots on the ground, your handshakes. Nothing will ever beat word of mouth. Everything else is meant to amplify it. And that's just a huge opportunity for you guys, especially with what is coming to the great state of Mississippi. And again, guys, there are no real estate podcasts out there, individual or otherwise, that are talking about the investment opportunities. So nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Please take advantage of those gaps in media. Now, I know I've been talking about nurture sequences. I firmly believe list building should, outside of getting listings and, putting houses up, that should always be what is front of mind for every single person. Every handshake you make should turn into an email list, which should be reached out to regardless of segmentation, at least once a week. Okay, that is very standard. There used to be rules of thumb about like what time and what day. That's kind of all gone out the market because of e-commerce. But even e-commerce, I will flat out tell you, I don't care if you're LL Bean, you are not making money by posting photos on social media of any platform. That is simply reach. The way they are making money, email campaigns, seasonal campaigns, and nurture sequences. Those are automations. So being proactive about your reviews are similar to polls. We can request them, but unless we are consistent about following up, providing the exact link, and asking for it maybe 3 or 4 times and kind of being unashamed about asking for it several times, because that is not normal Southern etiquette. Usually you ask once, and if they say yes, but forget about it, you don't push them. That's out the door. You ask multiple times, you get that review on Google, you get it on your website, and you get it on any other platform that you happen to need it. Something I am seeing take off more, and it's still a little bit of hesitancy for, but I think awesome opportunity, are actually text campaigns. That can go along with your list building. It can go along with lead generation. It can go along with sort of any campaign you make. Text, unlike email, has not been oversaturated. I know we see a lot when the politicians go crazy, but that's really who's using them right now. I will say, though, I am seeing more statewide communications because apparently I have a parking ticket in Colorado I need to pay, but you know, surprises. But I say very much, if you have an opportunity to leverage text campaigns for lead generation, awesome opportunity. Where people fail with this is they send the straight text. It's cheaper. I get it. Upgrade for just a few more cents. I think it's technically 10 more cents on most platforms, and put a banner in there with a click-through link so that people know, hey, check out this house, or hey, I haven't, I know you don't know me personally, but this is in your area. I'd like to make you aware of it. You're going to create buzz. You're going to give people something to look forward to, or to click into, to explore. But more importantly, text alone, thanks to Pavlov, we have a 98% open rate on text campaigns across the board. They are inexpensive right now. They are under leveraged, and it is a huge opportunity to get your foot in the door without becoming the late to the game person who just happens to be annoying. So fully support this one. Again, I can never say enough good things about podcast, and I will follow up with David about a podcasting workshop with all of y'all. But podcasting, again, it kind of died off during COVID. Everyone had to come home. They had to take care of their kids. Half of the podcasts that are out there are no longer active. The average life for someone who is starting a podcast, because it's all fun and games until you realize it is a kind of a full-time job, is about 3 months. So you'll see a lot of them are still up, but they don't have that much content out there. Podcasts are about to take off. We're even seeing like top list celebrities joining Joe Schmo podcast, indie podcast, taking off. The cool thing about that, similar to what TikTok is it becomes its own revenue stream, and it works very easily into your everyday business. It's great for credibility, and it is incredible for lead generation. So absolutely, without question, if you are remotely interested in starting a podcast, start it this year. And just promise me that you will keep it going for about 2 years, come hell or high water, and talk to me in 2 years, and I can guarantee you'll be a millionaire. I would be shocked if you weren't. There's so much opportunity in that space, and it fits into real estate, it fits into investment, and it fits into Mississippi. And then, of course, with Pinterest, just knowing that it does build into, or I guess, integrate into Google. Usually what works best on that platform are informational guides. So I work with a number of short-term rental companies, and so more like property management. And what they are finding in a couple states now is that has really slowed down. Ordinarily, they did not have to actually boost their own properties. There was no real marketing plan behind individual properties, and now there absolutely is. Airbnb being the biggest hosting out there, but gosh, the fees are insane. So finding ways to drive business directly to you, but then making sure that you are seen on these platforms when someone goes into Google and says short-term rental, vacation rental in whatever location they're going to. You want to beat that algorithm. You want to be at the top of it. So finding ways to feed the beast, as I call it. Do not, as realtors, forget about Pinterest, because if it's working for water and wastewater engineering firms, it will absolutely work for you. And then, of course, nurture sequences. Anytime someone comes to your website, anytime someone clicks through on one of your newsletters, there needs to be an email automation on the back end that reminds them in a couple of days, hey, great hearing from you. Would you like to see this? Thanks so much for signing up for our newsletter. Be sure to follow us on social. These are very easy to do. One of my favorite platforms is actually Constant Contact. No, I am not paid. I totally should be, though. But these platforms, they're so easy to navigate. I know this seems like a lot, but these things fit seamlessly into your business as long as you have a well-planned production schedule. You know what's happening when, and you're not kind of chasing your tail with social media, because that's when you get burned out. That's when you stop posting. And that's when you stop paying attention to impactful content. So really, the strategy behind it matters. And as long as you are consistent, some of your posts won't take off. Most of them will, if you are using the right impactful content. So let's jump to content. So of course, content is king. And I apologize, I keep moving y'all's heads around. So what content, if I'm supposed to be posting and a single post isn't getting me anywhere and Instagram hates me no matter what I'm trying, what content is actually going to build my business? Right now in real estate, and we did about a month worth of scraping just to make sure we were properly relaying these. It can always change, but right now, short-term videos, that means or short form, excuse me, 30 seconds or less, okay? For ones that are a little bit longer, stay under the 2, maybe 4-minute mark, but really short-term 30-second videos, popping those up and sharing them from a manual perspective, absolutely working for your business and very easy to add sort of, hey, quick update here. Hey, I read this in the CMR newsletter and I just want to talk about it. Those are great ways to get the information out and to showcase you without you having to do a lot of work. Obviously, reviews are never going to go away. Indexing reviews, they matter. Emails and newsletters, stay consistent. It's kind of like podcasting. That is the only bit of real estate you own in terms of marketing. Nurture it. And then my personal favorite, LinkedIn, particularly LinkedIn articles. Yes, it needs to be more polished than Facebook, obviously, Instagram, YouTube, but that is a simple tweak of what content you're putting out. Absolutely share videos, absolutely use the message system to reach buyers. There are tons of investors out there, and because of the interest tab that people are filling out on their profiles, real estate investment and finding real estate investors or real estate enthusiasts is actually easier than ever. If nothing more that you take away from me today, email, LinkedIn, Google. Absolutely. And nurturing those 3, that would be perfect to get you started and give you the enthusiasm to build out a more well-rounded posting platform, if you will, posting portfolio. But then it comes down to, sorry, let me move y'all's head. What should my content topics be? Okay. And again, I had the girls help me with this over at CMR. I did a ton of research on my own. I've reached out to other markets. I've reached out to North and South to find out really where people are gaining traction. Local insights. Good. 30-second video. What is happening across Mississippi? The ladies at CMR send out that newsletter. You do a recap of it and turn it into a 30-second video. Brilliant. Industry insights. Everybody across the nation right now, are we having a recession? Is the Fed going to lower interest rates? What does that actually mean? What does it mean for the average one-time dream home buyer? What does it mean for the new buyer? What opportunities are there for new buyers? Because I'm gonna say something that's unpopular here. That Gen Z, they might be annoying, but they have figured out how to make money doing some of the most obscure things. They might not have the best credit, but they will buy a house. And whoever starts recognizing to market to them specifically and helping them get into homes, oh my goodness, what an industry leader you would be. And then, of course, my favorite, especially a good billboard campaign, clever humor. You are seeing TikTok take off for real estate, not only for the walkthroughs, but there is a girl on there. She actually just started about a month and a half ago, and she gives very honest reviews of the properties that she is selling. And people are eating it up because she's not really watching her language. She's not really staying super polished. She's showing up in something that she probably could wear to class one day. That authenticity and that I'm not really here to like Kardashian the real estate world. I just want to sell a house and here's what you can expect and here's some quips to go with it. That is making an impact. So figuring out what your stick is, what your hook is, and going with that alone, she might sell one house a year, but I can guarantee you she's making millions on TikTok and it works in her business and it is an additional revenue line. So absolutely, I don't care if you are 75 and older. That exists with TikTok. When it first launched, of course, it was for like cults and teenagers who wanted to dance, but it has absolutely blossomed into an information space and a business platform, more relaxed business platform than LinkedIn, but it has no limit. If you aren't doing it now, I would suggest waiting until the end of September to see how that switch goes. Since the United States will be taking over processing, I think it's technically Oracle, but that should absolutely be worked in there. And then leverage those videos and data dump them across other platforms. Brilliant. But you're in real estate, you should have fun with it, you should enjoy it, call it out where you can, lean into the humor. Absolutely. So, weekly habits and kind of what does success look like for you guys? This is where I would start just about anybody if they came up to me on the street and said, what do I need to learn? What do I need to know? How do I stay consistent? Posting on Facebook, you're going to want to do it at least 3 times a week, okay? And I'm always going to suggest Reels because Meta is all about short form video right now. Instagram needs to be daily. It is a very hard platform. Do not ignore hashtags, although I do have strong feelings that hashtags do not have the reach that they once did. But again, leveraging carousels, leveraging reels, and if you're going to put any energy into a platform, Instagram over Facebook, because you can take what you build for Instagram and instead of, running around with your head cut off, you can share that to Facebook. Different platforms require different build sequences, if you will, because different media works better on some and not on others. But that does not mean that you need to be going crazy building content all the time for each individual platform. It is fine to do dumps on other platforms. TikTok, obviously 30-second videos throughout the day, even when you're driving in your car, having your coffee, does not matter. LinkedIn, most definitely 3 times a week. Carousel type multi-images, video, but most definitely at least once a week, you need to be leveraging articles because that's what Google is actually pulling from. Your portfolio and your blog, that being your website, if you have one or if you need to relaunch one, because every 5 years you should do a facelift of some kind on your website, they just become so much more technologically advanced that, even if you're Joe Schmo out in the middle of Timbuktu, you want to make sure that you are looking top of industry as well. And there's a lot of psychology behind the look and feel and functionality of the website. So stay on that 5-year sort of upgrade, facelift, if you will. When you have a blog, if you don't have one now, always go ahead and launch with about 10 to 15. Make them about your business specifically. Make sure Google is scraping them. you need a handful out there because it does take a while for Google to start paying attention and to start leveraging those as indexing material. And then moving forward, a weekly blog or vlog, absolutely critical. But the way vlogs actually work, because Google cannot do anything with a video, heavy show notes, make sure they're well informed, make sure you have those keywords, make sure you're thinking about how people find you so that you can leverage that sequence. Newsletters, no less than 2 monthly. Make sure you're blueprinting for it daily, though. Every handshake means an email. You add them to the list. They obviously have the opportunity to opt out because otherwise it would be illegal. And then at least once a month, make sure you are asking your community for reviews. If you sell a house, if you work with an investor, stay on top of them. But for general reviews about your industry knowledge or why someone enjoys following you, leverage that advocacy, command that advocacy because you can steer it. Ask once about monthly for general feedback and be rewarded for it. And then, of course, you want that consistent landing page. You want that nurture sequence. You want to find every avenue possible to build email lists, because the fastest way to build emails is through handshakes. There are a lot of challenges you'll see in the political space. People will buy email lists. Well, most email platforms like Constant Contact, MailChimp, there are a few other ones out there. If you purchase emails and they have any suspicion of it, they will shut down your whole account immediately. It's considered a no-no because it's so overdone. And you don't want to fall into the spamming rules. So if you purchase one and then you send like a welcome email to all of those emails, if you trigger 1% of them to mark you as spam, your account gets shut down. A platform like Constant Contact is far too valuable to risk shutting it down. So finding landing pages, doing the handshakes, building email list, always front of mind. Can be slow going, but worth its weight in gold as soon as you get consistent. And I do not care if you only have 200 emails in your email list. There is a strategy to leverage them without overwhelming them and without cannibalizing your list. So don't be afraid to start, and don't think there is some magic number to start. How you're going to measure success, because unfortunately with social media, a lot of it's pretty ambiguous and you don't always get the metrics you want. Similar to print, great. You have 900,000 people that you distribute this newspaper to. Excellent. How many of them are actually going to see my ad? How many are going to click through on my QR code? That's kind of where that breakdown comes from. And that's when marketing turns into a sunk cost. And while we have those and it's just a cost of doing business in some places, the primary way is, how are you going to see growth on social? Engagement growth is the hardest, okay? So follows or likes or comments, once you see that kick up, excellent. After that, you absolutely should see that advocacy building into email signups, organic email signups, and website traffic hits. Then you have the recognition of, let's say, part of your business you would like to focus on industry or local expertise, and you're trying to showcase that to parlay into something else. You're going to have the expertise awareness. People are going to ask you questions instead of just leaving "this is great, thanks so much" comments. And that, as we all know, leads to trust, which leads to build in the book of business. So making sure that you're considering all of this when you are measuring success. It's not overnight. Nothing is. I think will take you much further, but following these little rules here to help you kind of understand what healthy looks like in terms of posting, and then going back to what well-distributed looks like. I mean, there's nothing you can't do if you are making sure to stay consistent. And that is the thing. Consistency, even if you wake up and you don't want to do it that day, consistency is going to win, because everyone else, like the podcasting space, people get to 3 months, realize it's a job, and they quit. What if you lasted 3 months after that, or 3 more months after that? Huge opportunity for realtors. Sorry. Now, let me reshare my screen because I have a takeaway. So the number one complaint about workshops and workshops coming from trades is, great, thanks so much for the information. There's no follow-up. There's no action item. So the ladies, everyone who attended today, the ladies will be sending you an audit. And let me just switch over real fast. So hopefully everybody can see this Excel, but picking some of the primary platforms, this first page you're going to be getting is a profile audit. So is the handle there? Is there a bio and description? Is it completely filled out? Is there consistent branding? Did you go as far to ask for the verification? Have we defined hashtags? Are we following hashtags? Click-throughs and what they might be. On LinkedIn, you should have a website click-through and you should have a newsletter click-through. Making sure you fill it out and you see. It does help. I know it's almost juvenile to the point, but when you fill this out, you can see where your gaps are. You can see what you need to fix. I encourage everyone to go through each of their profiles and answer these questions. And yes, have your personal one, but if you don't have one separately built for your professional business, make sure you get that up there. So this should take you through all of that, but where the meat of it is on the second page. And I apologize. Hopefully everyone can see this, but what we did here was in the green, you will see what the averages are, okay? What is the average C+ realtor out there doing in terms of posting, how engagement is going for them? Let me scroll y'all's heads over real fast. Average manual engagement, because again, y'all, these are social platforms. These companies make money when you spend time on the site. So 20 minutes a day, pick your favorite, ding, 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 LinkedIn, and spend time on there. And all of a sudden, you're going to see it work better for you much faster. And then, of course, what follower growth looks like, because it's being restricted everywhere. And if you have to understand your organic growth before you start throwing money in social ads, there have been many a company across many an industry who has spent millions in social ads and gotten nowhere and bankrupted themselves. Understand your audience before you start just throwing money and spaghetti at the wall. But if you go through each of these platforms, let me move you guys one more time. And again, the ladies will be sending this out to you next week along with the link of the class so that y'all can go through. But when you go through each of these platforms and you kind of see what the average is and what's happening across not only Mississippi, but just industry as a whole, and measure yourself, you're going to see where your gaps are so that you can target where you want to build. Some of y'all might not want to do a full well-rounded. You might only want to focus on Facebook or LinkedIn. That's totally fine. And if you decide to go that route, you know, you're going to be able to see how your growth compares and then just throw all your energy into that. But I strongly encourage going for a more well-rounded approach because different platforms have different levels of restrictions, different ways to communicate. And the goal behind all of it is to communicate with buyers in the manner in which they prefer to be communicated with. And that varies by profession, it varies by generation, and quite frankly, it varies by like verified buyer qualifications, aka the money. So understanding who your target is, how you're getting there, and how you stack up compared to everyone else will help you recognize the gaps to get you just a little bit better than the average so you are more easily seen and your expertise is more easily recognized. So again, this will be sent out to all of y'all. I will strongly encourage you to take time next week to fill it out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Rachel or Gabby. Feel free to email me directly. I'm happy to jump on a call and go over your book of business for you and better ways to leverage what is out there without costing you an arm and a leg. Were there any questions before we wrap up today? Because I know we're getting to the last 10 minutes and I apologize, but any questions I can help you guys with?